Hi again. Today I'd like to tell you about the possessive adjective pronoun whose. It can be a little tricky. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the possessive form whose and the contractions for who is and who has. Let's look at some examples. I met an author whose books are famous all over the world. I cannot replace whose with who has or who is. I met an author who has books are famous. I met an author whose books are famous. That sounds strange, right? The books belong to the author. The author's books are famous. Compare that example with another sentence. I met an author who's famous all over the world. Can I replace whose with who is or who has? Let's try it. I met an author who has famous all over the world. Does that sound right? No, it doesn't sound right because there is no past participle form after has. How about this? I met an author who is famous all over the world. Much better, right? The author is famous. Whose is a contraction for who is. Now, let's look at one more. I met an author who's written several famous books. Can I say, I met an author who is written several famous books? That doesn't work. The author is not written. How about this? I met an author who has written several famous books. That works. The author has written several famous books. Whose is a contraction for who has. Whose might also be a little confusing because it sometimes modifies things. In a question, whose always refers to people, but in an adjective clause, whose can refer to both people and things. It is the only possessive pronoun used in adjective clauses. Here are a few examples. I read a wonderful book whose name I cannot remember. I cannot remember the book's name. Do you know the owner of the car whose alarm has been going off for 30 minutes? The car's alarm has been going off for 30 minutes. Let's go to the restaurant whose menu includes several vegetarian options. The restaurant's menu includes vegetarian options. Ready for some practice? Look at these sentences and decide whether you need whose or whose. There's the student who's in charge of the essay contest. Did you say whose with an apostrophe? That's right. The student is in charge. Let's try another one. Do you know the student whose essay won the contest? The essay belongs to the student, right? The student's essay won the contest. Last one. I'm trying to finish an essay whose deadline is in 1 hour. That one is a little tricky, isn't it? Did you say whose without an apostrophe? That's correct. The essay's deadline is in 1 hour. Nice work!